Hola, ¿qué tal? Hola.
Good afternoon.
Welcome
to the TCM meetings. Today is our second day in this festival, and I'm very moved today, first of all, because we have different filmmakers from different generations, but all of them share the passion for movies. And we have some masters with us. We have Raymond Depardon and we have Saura with us, which are real masters of the cinema. And I suppose that everyone who comes to these meetings is passionate about movies and about filmmakers. And so we would like to give a special applause to Raymond and to Carlos. Good morning, Mr. Depardon. Thank you very much for coming and for being with us today. Raymond Depardon is presenting in the section Zabaltegui a documentary film called 12 Days, in which he introduced the camera in a psychiatric ward. You have been shooting documentaries in the 80s about psychiatric hospitals, and I would like to know what gave you the impulse to go back there. There is a new European law that has made French hospitals compulsory to present everyone who is hospitalized in psychiatric wards. They have to be presented before the judge in 12 days, and in that new court, the judge listens to the case of the patient without the psychiatrist being present and with a lawyer present. It's a very impressive interview. You can't imagine that this is happening. And in 10 minutes, in 15 minutes, these patients talk to the judge, who's trying to find out if they were abusively put in the hospital, because everyone knows it happens not only in France but in every other hospital. Many people were in psychiatric hospitals out of dark reasons and without their consent, and especially people of old age that are interned in the hospital by their children, under the pretense of being crazy, which is not true. So all these stories are very moving, and these people can express and tell their story in a very moving way. My movie is somehow cynic, and this documentary film is trying to show what is happening there in places where we are not able to understand the circumstances, to understand what is going on, and to watch it, to see it in places where we suspect of things happening, but it is hidden. And I already shot 2 films, one in Italy and one in France, with people from the hospital with mental illnesses. Mental illnesses are very important in Western countries because they are hidden. These people are put away. In France, it says that 1,800,000 people suffer from mental illnesses. Let's see one example of these interviews with the judge.
Mais de toute façon, je vais vous dire, de toute façon, j'étais venue il y a combien de temps? Au mois d'octobre. Voilà. Au mois d'octobre, il y avait le festival du cinéma Lumière qui se passe tous les ans.
Oui, je sais, oui.
Voilà. Et j'adore y aller, j'y vais chaque année. Et donc là, c'était un samedi, alors je ne me rappelle plus quel jour, un samedi où j'avais pris j'aime bien prendre des photos aussi. Oui. Je me calmais.
Bueno, pues ahí teníamos uno de los ejemplos, son bastante
So we can see here one of these examples. There are many, many interviews, and what impressed me is that is how your technical team worked, because they were moving around these interviews. And how did you do it so that the judge and the patients could express themselves without being ashamed of the cameras being there? Well, I don't know why, but I am a person who loves to imagine people, to put me in their shoes. And my parents, they were agricultors, and I grew up very close to nature, and I see metaphors everywhere. I many often see people, and I can see how they resemble other things. There are people who are like the center of the world. There are other people who are right to lean on, and I am not a person that likes to be in the center of attention. I am more like the comfortable place where you can leave your coat on or you can lean on. And I don't like to be at the center, so we were shooting with 3 cameras that were there in the courtroom, and I realized that these psychiatric ward patients don't blink. It is probably due to medication, but I found it fascinating to see how their gaze, their look is different. You can recognize them in the city. You can recognize them on the street, in the bus. And, of course, you have to be very careful around them. You don't have to incommodate them. You have to be very human, respect them. And this is what I did with my camera. I tried to be very open, very frank, to show myself, not to hide myself, but not to invade them, not to be aggressive towards them. This is my 3rd film about psychotic illnesses, so I have some experience, and maybe something has changed. When I shot the first film about this topic 3 years ago, I visited an ill man who was banging his head against the door, but I was not interested in showing these extreme patients. I wanted to show a very dignified image of these people, because they are suffering a lot. They are in deep pain. And some people who in English are called burnout, they used to have a regular job at a company, but they are bullied by their bosses, and till they break down and they are burned out. And they are very normal people, like your neighbor or someone from your family, and their mental illness can take a very serious turn. And there are people who have killed others because society doesn't know what to do with them, and so they put them in a psychiatric hospital. And society is afraid of them. I suppose that in Spain it should be the same, but in France these hospitals look like prisons sometimes. And these patients are put aside, casted away. And I was very impressed by what they explain. They express in a different way. Maybe they even express better than myself, but they express in a different way. And especially Europeans, and more specifically Southern Europeans, have this sense of freedom that is coming from back in our history. We want to be free. We want to walk around, to be on the streets. And when you are deprived of freedom, this is terrible. I know about it because I grew up in a farm. And if I couldn't be in contact with nature, if I couldn't move around freely, this would be devastating for me. And we don't realize it, but we are able to do whatever we want every day, and we are free to eat whenever we want. We can drink a cup of coffee whenever we want. We can go to bed whenever we want. And these people are deprived of that. And this is terrible. It is very heavy on the psyche. And we could recognize this in the way they look. I'm asking myself now about the legal framework. I suppose you have to do a lot of legal paperwork to be able to shoot there. It is true that I'm very well known in France, and I have shot many films about justice and about politicians and about psychiatric hospitals. So at a certain point, I have to make them feel at ease with me. I hope that everyone working at the justice system, they know that Raymond Depardon and my production company, we are respectful, we are discreet, we are not a big company, and we like to work in the shade, not colliding with the work of justice. So I suppose institutions feel at ease with me. It is true that in France it is forbidden to shoot in prisons and in psychiatric hospitals, but they are citizens. These patients are citizens. And so 1 out of 2 people I talked to agreed with the film. And of course, everyone that said no, we respected that and we didn't force anything. But most of people wanted to tell their story, wanted to be heard. So we shot 72 cases and we reduced it to 10. At the beginning of the film, we quote Foucault, because he says that science, that people that are called crazy can teach us something because they are pure. They are pure persons. And I realized there were several cases among the 72 I shot that were like that. There is a sociologist in France, Bourgeois, who talks about misery, human misery, but not the misery we see in places where there is a lot of suffering because they don't have a job, or it has nothing to do with politics and with the political aspect of society. Now we have a president that is called Macron. Before that we had Hollande. But this misery is independent of the political parties on power. Of course, people are suffering if they don't have a job. But there are characters, there are people who are of an uncertain origin, and we all, at a certain point, face the fear of not knowing what to do, not knowing where we come from. We all suffer, we all cry or get worried. And I would like to tell the public that this film is not sad. It's a very human film in which you get to know these people that are just right across the border, just at the other side. So thank you very much to Raymond Depardon, who gave us the opportunity to go with his camera into psychiatric hospitals and to know a reality that is very difficult to know otherwise. Thank you very much for your wonderful work and for coming here to be with us. I see you have a camera in here. Maybe you can take a picture later. And now our second stop is a stop with a very good friend of ours who is always coming to the festival. Last year we met him with his last film, and this year he's coming with Plagan, the plague. And I was trying to analyze the similitude and the differences between your films, last year's film and this year's film. And last year you wanted to shoot the emptiness in the multitude, and this year is the opposite way. You didn't go to the multitude, you went to Iceland, where there is these empty landscapes, and there you wanted to shoot people. Oh, this analysis is new to me. It didn't occur to me. But it's true. There is a certain similitude in the reflection I do about our way of spending free time in our Western culture. In the first film you mentioned, it talks about a more organized way of spending free time. And in this last film, I talk about free time or leisure in a place where technology allows us to travel and to be able to spend just a few days in a very different space and then go back home. And we just make a lot of pictures to be able to remember these very short vacations. I was, as a tourist in Iceland, I was a part of the plague, and suddenly I had this image, like in a microscope, of all of us tourists attacking as bacteria one organism, attacking these natural parks, these wonderful landscapes that are in Iceland. And if you focus on tourism as a plague, you realize that it is a phenomenon that has a very particular effect on places like in San Sebastian too. Yes, you show tourists as ants in your film. Yes, this was the image that came to my mind when I was in Iceland. And I think it's not the vision of someone who is outside of that reality. But in that case, the filmmaker is part of this myriad of ants who are contaminating these places. The only difference between the filmmaker and the rest of the tourists is that he has a camera, that's all. But he is part of this plague of people with their different cameras and different devices and technology that are recording every single thing and making pictures of every single thing. And I was asked many times if I wanted to be critical towards tourism and this new phenomenon, but I don't know if it is a criticism. Let's see some images. You see how the plague is arriving in these images. So I think this film was kind of improvised. You already said that you had the idea while you were already in Iceland. And were you able to shoot it right away, or did you have to come back to Iceland to shoot it? I was having a very small domestic camera with me, and I became obsessed with this idea, but sometimes you have good ideas at the moment and you have to grasp this moment. So I saw the film in front of me, and the only thing I had to do was to shoot it. So I devoted my whole trip to this, to shoot different situations in specific places. And this is the way I shot the film. I didn't expand my vacation there. I didn't come back to that place again. It's just another tourist film that is visiting the country and visiting those landscapes. But instead of paying attention to the beauty, I was paying attention to those who are paying attention to the beauty. There is a very important post-production work here. and the sound is very important, the sounds of nature. Yes, my decision was to shoot a documentary film in which photography and the image are more important than the story. I think the story or the images talked for themselves. And so I didn't decide to write any essay or to put more text to it, because I think the sounds of nature, the different forms of water, frozen water, or a fall, a waterfall, is sound enough for the film. And of course, the work with the sound in post-production was very important. Of course, it is the natural sound I recorded, but I enhance it or change it a little bit. And why black and white? Well, there are several reasons. I was thinking about this idea of the microscope and focusing with a microscope, which is black and white most of the times. And this is part of the reason. Then I wanted to work with different atmospheres, different sceneries, different qualities of light. And the image was not compatible with other images when all this changed. And so I saw that everything was colluding to show it in the same way, so I decided to shoot it in black and white. A more personal question, if you allow me. You are part of the plague and you are invading things the same. Meanwhile, you shoot. Why are you part of the plague if you're against it? Well, I know it's a very modern phenomenon and it is difficult to stop it. I don't know if it is good or bad. But I consider it's something we can't escape. Even if we are very aware and we try to be conscious tourists, we are tourists anyway. And whenever we visit the Pyrenees, we are tourists too. And of course, it's different how you behave during your trip and how you behave in life. And you can see it in the film. There are people that work in different, that travel in different ways. But you can see it in the film. There is this hysteria of having a selfie with a selfie stick and pictures and everything. And I think it belongs to our culture nowadays. Thank you very much, Koldo. This film is a jewel. And the most important thing in this type of film is the focus of the filmmaker. So thank you very much.
Bueno, seguimos adelante.
So we continue our trip today. How are you? And our next guest today is Rima Das. She's an actress, but she is coming as a filmmaker. She is coming from India, and this is her first film. She has done everything. She has produced, she has directed, she has taken care of the photography, and she came back to her to Assam, to her place of origin, to recuperate a culture that might be getting lost. Why did you come back after so many years to your city?
So I was asking about why did you come back to your born village to make that such a personal film? When? No, why?
Why? Okay. I was in Mumbai. Mumbai is like city in like India, and from my childhood, I wanted to be an actor. So I came to Mumbai to be an actor, and we are grown up watching Bollywood films. Okay, Bollywood films are mostly with songs, music, kind of. And so I didn't knew about world cinema. So in Mumbai, I got that opportunity to watch world cinema. So I started watching movies across the world, and then I realized like it will be better to start from home, and because I know the place, I know my people, and because I came to be an actress, like, and I know nothing about filmmaking also, so I started making movies, initially some short films, kind of just watching movies, so that's what I know. Like, I'm not from a film school, so I thought like it will be better to start from home. Because my first film and my first film Manuda Binoculars, then my second film Village Rockstars, both are for me like film school, and I knew that I'm going to take a long time, and it's like, yeah, I thought it would be great from home, like, because I feel like from Northeast India, I'm from Northeast part of India, and I have grown up there, and I see many stories, and I wanted to tell those stories to the world, and I'm very happy to be here.
Bueno, como decíamos, la película de Rima se titula Village Rockstars.
The film is called Village Rockstars. She is a filmmaker, and she has been shooting all throughout the years, and she has been working with children in her village.
Una pandilla de niños que sueña con
It's a group of children who dream of having a band, a rock band. How was it to work with children? How far were they directed, or they were natural and they were themselves? How was your work with them?
So I was asking about, did you have a set script before starting the filming, or there were a lot of improvisation around with kids, and how was the work with kids?
Okay, so I was doing the post-production of my first film. I was actually editing my film in my village, sitting at my home, and then one day I noticed these children, only boys, performing in a local gathering with these fake instruments, and that amazed me, and I thought they are amazing, like they are not getting proper formal education, but I found them extremely talented and skilled. And then I decided to tell their story and coloring my own imagination. Then it's a long process of writing and rewriting, and because I didn't have fun to make this film, because I already doing my first film, so fortunately, I had my own camera, and with my first film there was a crew, and with this second film I didn't want to lose that opportunity to work with these amazing children, and I was living in a city. I was living an urban life, so when I stayed back in my village, these children, they helped me to unlearn. I started looking the beauty in ordinary, simple things. So from the very beginning, when I was doing short films, then I like to work with children. I don't know why, but I'm very comfortable with children. So I had that confidence in me. And when I just casually started shooting with this, initially writing the structure, yeah, not everything was I written. So I started being with these children. I became one of them, and and gradually, and because of their spirit, their innocence, the power of innocence, and like their honesty and their love to do, like involved in every part, because I didn't have a crew. So it was difficult to do everything, but they used to help initially. After some time, they started helping me with just changing the lens, carrying things, or like even they started recording the sound. So this film actually, credit goes to the children, you know, and because I started as an actor, so actor in me helped, I think, to train these children. And we had formal, it's not a proper formal training. It was a very like under the blue sky, in the river, we are swimming, we are climbing trees. So training happened like that. It is not kind of a proper formal training. And we shot this film around like 150 days in 3 years, more than 3 years. So during this time period, like, because I was connecting to my root, you know, and I wanted to tell to the world this story because, yeah, as a positive story, and how living in deprivation, these children and villagers, how they are celebrating life. That actually intrigued me, it inspired me, it changed my life during the whole process of this making this film. It changed completely my life. So, yes.
Solo una curiosidad, porque estaba fascinado por lo que contaba.
Just a question. I was listening to you, and I found it fascinating. And in the credits, I saw that everyone is called Das. Are they members of your family?
No, that also I came to know later. Actually, I was not aware of that. Probably this is the same village, because all the people are non-actors from my village, same village, and most of them probably kind of extended families. So some of them are relatives, but it is for me also fascinating, because I also realized later on when writing the names.
Bueno. Pues muchísimas gracias por haber vuelto y por haber tenido esa sensibilidad para recuperar.
Thank you very much for your film, and thank you very much for this sensibility you are showing in your film about how life overcomes deprivation, and how innocence and children are important in our lives.
Bueno, empezamos.
And we started with a master with a camera, and now we have another master with another camera, Mr. Saura. And you are the representatives of the film Sauras. Felix Vizcarret is the film director, and we have one of the performers, and we have Carlos Saura here. And I don't know if he is an actor playing the role of himself, or I'm a secondary actor. Well, I think you are interpreting yourself in this film. I have the feeling that you were interpreting yourself in the film, but maybe a little bit too much. I would like to be a good actor. Several years ago, I played a small part in a film of Marco Ferreri, in The Small Car, with Rafael Azcona. And the main actor asked him who I was, and the film director answered, he is Saura, the film director. And he says, sorry, but he's the worst actor I've ever seen. And so that was the end of my career as an actor. Whatever he says, I know, and I can tell about it, that his first reaction when he saw this film, devoted not only to his work as a great filmmaker that he is, internationally acknowledged, and which is not only my word, you don't need to take my word for it. He has over 40 films and many prizes. But when he saw the results of the film, he said, "Oh, I like myself as an actor better than I thought." Felix, this film belongs to a series that is called Telling Filmmakers, and you have chosen different filmmakers from different generations to talk about them. I don't know. I think you didn't meet Saura before. Why did you choose him?
Sí, la palabra es mal elegida.
Well, it is not a series. It is not a chapter of a series, but it is true they are very independent films. They don't depend one from another. They are not chapters, but they are centered in one filmmaker each. The previous one was 4 years ago about Latino, and they are very different from each other. And we hope this series to continue, maybe not in the foreseeable future, not at the short term, but in our culture we many times nourish this competitive, individualistic way in which filmmakers always blame others and try to reinvent ourselves and have a talent of our own and compete one against the other. And it is not true. We are here to cherish masterworks that preceded us and from which we learn. And I think it is very nice to thank someone from whom I learned a lot, like Carlos Saura in this case. And that's why I chose it. I didn't know him personally, but I wanted to, of course, I knew his work and his public figure, but I wanted to know his person, the hidden part of his person. And I applaud him because, as you know, as a filmmaker, I started the film without knowing what the end was going to be, and he agreed to work with him. Well, I have to say that this young man is very intelligent and works very well, and I am happy that he decided to shoot the film while I'm alive, because this type of films always happen when you are already dead, so I'm happy to be alive. And first of all, I would like I would like also to give a big hug and to thank my French colleague, because I love his work. Thank you very much, Raymond Depardon, for your work. I admire you very much. And I think it is very nice to count on him in this festival and to cherish his films. And of course, my films are more modest, and he is well acknowledged internationally. But we both had the same idea of bringing a camera with us. And going back to Felix's film, I watch it as if it were a film that it's not about me, as it is a fiction film, and I happen to be there, but I'm playing another character. And he also intervenes. He is inside the film, which is also very interesting. And I would like to give the floor to my colleagues, because I have already talked too much. Well, Felix already mentioned that the documentary film is a format that helps you to tell stories in a different way. There were many films on Saura, but they were all centered in his work. And in this film, you can see Saura in his personal life, with his children, how his personal life and the events of his personal life had an influence on his work. And you can see him as a person, not as a filmmaker, not as a photographer, but as a person. Let's see some images of the documentary films for you to get a taste of it and get the tickets to see the whole film.
Tampoco me gusta vivir pensando qué películas he hecho en mi vida. He hecho más de 40 películas, ¿no? O sea, no se puede vivir del recuerdo, es absurdo. Hay que vivir en el presente y proyectarse hacia el futuro.
O sea, mi padre es una persona que aparentemente insensible, fría, que no quiere hablar ni de recuerdos, ni de pasado, ni de nada, pero que luego no es así. O sea, lo que pasa es que hay que conocerle y hay que entenderle.
Bueno, yo creo que en este extracto está una de las claves.
I think here you can Here, I'm very young in that image. One of the keys of this film is that Felix tried to use your children to bring you to talk, to make you talk. And I have the impression, after watching the documentary film, that you don't like the past, but you do. You talk about the past quite a lot. So I think there is a contradiction there, and Felix was intelligent enough to find it and to point it out. Wow, your summaries are so beautiful. I have to say that, I don't know, films and projects are always very passionate and teach you things and make you grow as a person. I went to shoot this film with a very rigid, preconceived idea. I wanted to show this hidden facet of Saura, and he was the one who taught me that the most funny adventures are. The funniest adventures are those who are improvised and are not planned and not very strict, not very rigid. So my scheme, my idea, my initial plan was very rigid, very strict, but with his very Aragonese sense of humor, and he broke my concept, and he faced me with a fourth wall, and he broke all my homework that I had prepared at home very carefully, and he showed me how to enjoy making films in a more playful way, in a more risky way, in a process in which the fight for the film is not following the plan. Anna, when Felix told you that he was going to shoot a film with the 7 children of Sarah, what did you think? Well, if you watch the documentary film, you can see that we have a very special relationship. So with my brothers and sisters, we don't talk every day, and we don't have a common WhatsApp group of the family. And we were all very reluctant to go to the film. So Felix did a very thorough work to convince us and to bring us to the film. And especially myself, I was never in front of the camera. I was never part of any documentary film, and I didn't want to have anything to do with it. But Felix fought for it. He went to visit all my brothers and sisters and myself, and he got it in the end. He made us work in the film. And this was not part of our plan. Carlos, although you say that you don't like to watch your movies, there are some of them that are in the film and you comment on them. Yes, but I don't remember how I did them. Yes, but you enjoy them. Well, I always try to live in a way that points towards the future and forgets about the past. So I want to forget about the past, but on the other hand, I keep everything. I keep all my scripts. I keep all piece of paper in which I scribble anything. But what I want is that if I don't mind if that gets lost. I don't mind if I die and my name is forgotten. It is very dangerous to live in the past and to be centered in the past. It is very difficult to get trapped in memories. Memories are a trap. And I seem to be the main character in this film. I don't know what I'm doing there, but I became friends with Felix, which is already a gain out of the film, and I hope he keeps on being a friend of mine. And so I encourage him now to shoot the second part of the film, Saura 2. If you like the future, we would like to talk about the future. What are your future plans? Well, I have shot over 40 films, and that's why I don't like to talk about the past, because only if I speak 2 minutes of each of the 40 films, it would take us 80 minutes. As you can see, Anna had yesterday a very brilliant idea, because many people were going to see a very funny aspect of my father, which is not the most common one. People that are not friends with him and don't know him in person don't know that he is very funny, actually. And so maybe we have discovered a new comedy actor. Well, who knows? I don't know. He's so busy all the time with so many projects. I would like to know about your projects in the future. You're shooting a film about Picasso. You're shooting a musical. Well, I would like to explain something before. I know that I'm very young yet. But I'm shooting a documentary film that it's called The King of the World, and it is talking about Mexico in a very funny world with Antonio Banderas and with the producer. We are going to shoot a film on Picasso. But I fought a lot not to do it in English, because I think it is terrible that Antonio Banderas, who is coming from Malaga, has to speak English. And French people and Spanish people are going to kill me if I shoot a film on Picasso in English and not in French or Spanish. And in the end, I succeeded, and we are starting to shoot next year. And I have to thank Felix, too, for some contacts for this film. So we hope that you present the film in San Sebastian. You know that I love San Sebastian, and I always come to this film festival. And the documentary film about Cuenca, the first one I shot, I presented it in San Sebastian. So I'm a very old person already, and I have been in San Sebastian's festival many, many times. When people meet Carlos Saura, they realize that he is not old. He is a master, and but he's not only a master in cinema. He's also a master in activity, in life, in passion, in action. He's full of energy, and he has always a very open attitude of learning, playing, and this is contagious. 5 minutes longer, and we will be all making jokes and playing here. Thank you very much for being with us. This has been a very nice conversation, and you can stay with us, have a drink, and keep on talking. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. We will have new films, new film directors, and new surprises. Thank you very much.